We often focus on cutting-edge research coming out of U Ottawa, but there's another side to academic life that shapes the future of science just as profoundly: teaching.
Behind every breakthrough is a professor who inspired a student, who challenged their thinking and showed them what it means to be a scientist. Today we'll be talking with Professor Matthieu Delcourt, whose career reflects the evolving nature of what it means to be an academic.
We'll be exploring how professors balance research and teaching, what a day in the life actually looks like, and why the work that's happening in the classroom matters just as much as what happens in the lab. So, without further ado, please welcome Professor Matthieu Delcourt.
Okay, so to get started, how did you get into science and what drew you to it?
So I think I started being interested in science. There were two different occasions. The first was when I was 13 years old. I saw on TV a charity so this is in France. It's called the Téléthon. So a big charity. They were raising money for research on genetic syndromes affecting kids. That includes the muscular dystrophy, and I really wanted to do something, and I was really into cycling. So the year after, I decided to actually train the whole year and cross France by bike, about 100 kilometers a day. We got sponsors, and I was raising a lot of money for that. And at the end, the end of this big trip was actually in Paris, and I got to meet the researchers that were actually.
That's super cool. It's
Yeah.
like you really just started something and brought it to a really interesting end.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's good to always remind yourself, where does that passion or first interest come from, and whether it comes from sport or just from giving to other people. And I guess here the idea was, to use my muscles for kids who could not use theirs, and then meeting those researchers at the end was really enlightening. And I think they were so passionate about what they were doing, but also, their lab was also very close to the hospitals and the children they were actually helping. So this was one thing about how I got into science. The other thing is a very inspiring high school teacher who was taking us in the wild and explaining everything from geology to plant to evolution. So
Yeah, I always feel like there's that one key person in your life that kind of just sets you up for what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I think, and often it's in high school, or could be also at the university. And I think for that professor, it was his ability really to integrate everything and kind of read nature. So that was very inspiring, and I always try to remember that, or at least help students understand that everything is connected.
Yeah, I think teachers definitely really help shape who we end up being, because we're just around them for so long.
Yeah, it's a tough job. We have a responsibility in that sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about just an overview of your research background, what type of projects you've worked on. Are you still working on projects?
Yeah, so I've started doing research actually just when I did my master's degree as an exchange student at McGill University, actually. And so I started working on the speciation of three-spine stickleback. These are little fish we find in British Columbia. So we bring them in the lab and we can videotape them while they, there's a courtship behavior and all of that. And so it was very, very interesting. And then in a conference in Montreal, that's where I met with my PhD supervisor, Professor Rundle, and he was starting his lab here at the University of Ottawa. So this is the first time I got to visit campus and his lab. He was working in quantitative genetics. So it was fascinating. I was looking at the evolution of sexual preference in fruit flies. So a change in organism. measuring the effect of genes. And then after that, I wanted to explore even more and do a little bit more genetics and genomics. And so for that, I did 2 postdocs actually after my PhD. And I went to Idaho and UCLA and worked in yeast, because yeast is super easy to work with.
Yeast is cool.
Yeah, you can do a lot of things. So you can brew beer with yeast. Well, I had a project in my research at UCLA where instead of brewing beer, we could actually brew dopamine. Kind of. We could actually change the genome of that yeast to really divert it to produce molecules of industrial interest. So really cool application. So I'm no longer doing any research in biology, just focusing on teaching, which I love. And also maybe I have some side projects in science education to improve my own teaching.
Yeah, so then I guess my question to you is, like, what really got you into teaching? Like, what drew you to that?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of going back to one of my first loves, right, which is transmitting knowledge. And I think because of that high school teacher who really inspired me, I think I wanted to do the same. And I think it also came from a curiosity of understanding nature. And so I was always asking myself a lot of questions. Okay, why is this happening? Why are there so many, different plants and different colors and all of that? And so one way to get at that was to do research. But then eventually I realized that I was interested in just too many things and I could not specialize myself in one thing. And you end up in labs where everyone is an expert in that one little bug, one little gene. So I decided to go back to teaching because that way I could actually, tackle a little bit everything and still study and learn about a lot of different things. And also I found that it was a very welcoming environment, and also very rewarding. And I think I don't regret it, even if I spent a lot of time doing research. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to go into our second segment, which is where we kind of dive in a little bit deeper. So we're going to talk a little bit more about your teaching and kind of your experience with it over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as a professor, how has your work evolved from when you started?
Yeah, I think it's changing all the time. I've been teaching for 6 years only, I should say.
Okay.
So actually quite recently, since I started teaching here at the university. Definitely and quickly we've changed because of COVID, and I think we had to really adjust in how we deliver the material and interact with students. Mm-hmm. And so I think we still have learned a few good things from COVID in terms of best practices. Mm-hmm. But we are still not there yet. So we are still learning a lot in terms of digital tools and how to keep students engaged and keeping the material relevant, because I was used to overheads and people drawing on the board, and but now we can do much more. So I think there's a lot of tools, maybe too many. So it's hard to adapt. Yeah.
Was it tough teaching online?
Oh yeah, I think because I was teaching large first-year classes with up to 1,400 students, we were not allowed to have those courses on campus, because during COVID, only classes of less than 50 could actually occur on campus, especially on year 2, I think. So this means I taught 2 years from my living room at home, and so I didn't see any students.
Oh, you were just talking to a screen.
That's right.
Yeah. Into the void.
Do you remember that? How did it feel from the student perspective? You were also working from home, and
it was learning from a screen. So it was the same It was okay. It was hard to always keep interest and things like that.
That was always my struggle. I found it very hard to stay focused without a person actually talking at me. I'm one of those kinds of people that kind of needs the visual and personal interaction. Without that, it's just I feel I have a hard time paying attention to the screen.
Yeah, I definitely think really struggled with paying attention during COVID. Because again, I need the person-on-person interaction, and there are just so many distractions when there isn't somebody watching you. Your phone is addicting. Yeah. And instead of listening to someone talk about something that's maybe not super interesting, I could scroll on my phone. But when you're in class in person, that option is different because you feel like you have to show the respect to the professor that you're listening and being engaged. And so I think that's definitely better for me.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting, and I guess from our perspective as well, we need to do our best to keep the class interesting, relevant, and also very interactive. For example, right now I'm teaching a third-year course, population genetics. And unfortunately, it's 2 courses back to back, so it's a 3-hour time slot, and there's a lot of math. So we're at the beginning of the semester, so I'm going to force myself to have pauses and a lot of interactions. Fortunately, we're in CRX, so we have the opportunity to do group work. So something we probably cannot do really well, online. Right, during COVID, it was very hard to have that. I guess sense of belonging and interaction between everyone. So, yeah.
Our next question is, so many professors talk about kind of the push and pull between research and teaching. How has that affected you? And also, like, how do you see that affecting your colleagues?
Yeah, so I guess I think because I'm not doing any biological research, I guess my schedule is a bit different. I still do have a lot of meetings, with students, with colleagues, and there's no 2 days that are the same, and that's great. I think I'm able to find a fairly good balance, between all the different activities and even some of my side project in science education, because I guess I decide my own schedule. And I also have a lot less pressure than a lot of my colleagues in terms of productivity, number of papers to publish, and obtaining funding through grants and defining ideas and all of that. So I find that I'm very lucky to be in a position where it's quite balanced. But of course, because I'm so passionate, I also have to remind myself, to turn off the phone, the emails at night or on weekends.
Yeah. Wait, so do you definitely enjoy teaching a lot more than like research? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think so. It's so rewarding when you talk to students and they finally get it. There's this idea or this exercise or a concept that they didn't know and they finally understand. And I think we're there to plant a seed in students, and I think it's really nice to see students grow as scientists and find their own path. And I think you can see that when you're researchers, of course, within your own lab. But I think I see that almost every day in every class. Every class for me is an experiment. So it's a very short, very fast-paced experiment, as opposed to big long projects working on this gene and on this model organism. So I love teaching, and I think because also I'm learning every day, even from students. So I'm not just teaching one thing, and I try to always keep myself up to date with the latest research. So yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so was there like a moment where you really like figured out that you like teaching? Like what made you like shift from research to teaching?
Yeah, I think there were some ups and downs, I think, in research, and I think we have to be upfront. In academia, not everything is easy. There are some troubleshooting and a lot of failures, and we learn from mistakes. But I think for me it was a passion that I had for a long time. First, I wanted to be a high school teacher in the south of France and raise, goats and cows in the middle of France. But eventually, I was so interested in research that I wanted to do that. But at some point, I realized that I was a bit happier just teaching, interacting with students who were very curious about knowledge, and so I think. It was an obvious choice at some point because you feel it deep inside, and I have zero regret on all of the research that I've done because I could actually use that in my courses. In molecular biology labs, we've done CRISPR, on yeast producing dopamine, for example, and so. Yeah, I think it took a while, but it's never too late. So that's another advice I would give students. it can take a long time to figure out what you want, but once you have it, you know it, and it feels really good.
All right, I think we're going to move on to our third segment now. So now we're going to go more into like walking in your shoes. So what does like a typical day look for you and that stuff. So I'm going to give it over to Anusha for our first question.
Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of pull from that and just first ask you, like, if you can just walk us through what a typical day looks like for you.
Yeah, so I think I said earlier there are no 2 days that are the same, but I'll try to come up with a typical day maybe during the semester. So I think so. I wake up, I get my breakfast. I try not to be too much on the phone, and then I actually decided to walk to campus. To stay a bit healthier.
Are you still doing that in the winter?
Like winter?
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
really?
That's some commitment.
Yeah, in the summer I just bought an e-scooter, so you might see me. But yeah, in the winter I try to force myself to do that. It's also a good moment to just relax a little bit before the day starts, or even after, to decompress. And then when I get to the office, I guess I will check my emails, answer a bunch of important emails, mostly from students, and I want to make sure that I deal with those regarding grades, regarding assignments and things like that first. But then there will be a lot of interactions with colleagues. Sometimes we have meetings about changes in the curriculum or different tools, for example, we need to use in class. This afternoon, for example, I took a 1-hour class online on how to use AI in the class. And so we also try to keep ourselves up to date with these types of teaching methods, and also I had a meeting with some representatives of the Science Student Association, the SSA, at UOttawa, to prepare a nice page that will be kind of a hub for students who are looking into doing research, right? Because there's a lot of information out there, but we find a lot of students not really knowing where to find that info.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we started the podcast, actually, is because, at least from my perspective as a fourth-year student, it's really difficult to find those kind of opportunities.
Yeah, and I think I often tell students, don't hesitate to reach out to profs, talk to your TAs, talk to students who've gone through that. And so I guess the SSC also wanted to provide that information in a more digestible way, and something we, as prof, we can really send to students, and I think that's great. So other things I would do in the day, of course, the teaching. So I would that would take maybe between an hour and a half and sometimes 4.5 or sometimes 6 hours of teaching, depending on the days. Preparing lectures can take sometimes up to, I would say, 15 hours per hour of lecture. It varies a lot, but so it's quite a lot. We try to do it in the summer or when we have breaks, and then I think maybe I skipped lunch here, but we try to take a quick lunch as well in between our hours, and then we also have office hours, 2 or 3 per week, and a lot of departmental meetings as well, a lot of chit chat also with profs, also to check on each other, students who drop by our office. So. Yeah, there's a lot of different things we do as teachers. Yeah.
So if you had to pick like one thing out of your day that was like your favorite thing, what would it be?
I think for me it would have to be those 5 or 10 minutes after a lecture where students come to me and ask questions.
Really?
I feel like that's when I can clear up some things.
Mm-hmm.
I see they're interested. I feel like there's direct interaction. They've paid attention and they really want to know, and understand. And I think, this is priceless. I feel like this is even more efficient in 5 minutes, when I answer those questions than an hour and a half of lecture, because they're actually active.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you yourself sometimes go ask profs questions?
Yeah, I usually try to go to the office hours for most of my classes because I'm one of those people who likes to ask questions about everything. Yeah, office hours are definitely one of my favorite things that teachers offer.
For me, it's like I was surprised when you said that was your favorite part, because it's like in my head it's like I'm super nervous whenever to go up and like ask. It's like maybe it's like for me I might like send an email or like I'd maybe go in office hour, but then I don't know, I feel like after class I'm like, oh, I'm bothering them or something, and then I don't know, I feel like I just really nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. The only reason I started going to office hours is because I have this one friend who just loves going to office hours. And so she would always be like, oh, we're going to office hours. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And so I'd just get dragged along. And then I just started going on my own. And I realized, oh, these are actually quite beneficial if you use them properly.
Yeah, and I feel like, sometimes when I have 1,200 students for my office hours, I have 1 or 2 students. So I'm quite surprised. And, sometimes it's okay if you just want to come to our office and just talk about, biology or science. We, we like to chat about anything related to science. And office hours are also a great time to also ask questions for, your career, your own interests, what you want to do. And so I would really encourage students to engage with their profs, ask questions, because they were students before, they went through all of that. And also, you never know, maybe, they can provide a letter of recommendation a few years down the road, because they actually can put a face on a name.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that as a fourth-year student looking for recommendation letters.
Yeah, often we receive some emails from students, but yeah, there's not much we can say beyond the grades that they have on the transcript. So it's good to see students who are very proactive, and we recognize it's a little difficult sometimes. But hey, you can start by asking questions at the end of the course, actually.
Yes.
You've mentioned a couple of times that you do work with science education programs. I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think it came from, I guess, right after COVID. I was looking at how my students were actually interacting and engaging online through WooClap. And I guess the first obvious question is, well, why are they engaging? Is it just because they are motivated, or do they want to maybe just get a good grade? And so I wanted to understand the interaction between student performance, engagement in class, and motivation. So for that, I actually supervise honor students. We collect data and we do analysis, a little bit like you would do if you're working on mice or other other more biological topic. And what we realized is that online, the engagement was really the main factor of performance. And of course, right, if you can stay engaged in front of your screen, well, it's going to make a big difference in terms of how you perform in your exams. But when students came back on campus, we realized that it was a little bit more about motivation, and I should say the lack of motivation. And we found a lot of students being very resignated, having difficulties adjusting to the university as a first-year students, and being very stressed. Did you find that a little bit? Yeah,
Very much.
Yeah, and so we can explain a good 40% of the grade based on whether a student is engaging in class, whether they can keep their motivation up. And even whether it's like an external motivation, right? So working for the grade, or doing that assignment because the prof said so, versus the one I probably prefer is the internal motivation, right? So I really encourage students to remember why they are here. They don't have to love biology, but maybe there's a few questions that they have, and we can maybe help them figure a few things out. And so I think it's our role to keep the material interesting, fun, and yeah.
So what surprised you the most about academic life compared to what you expected? Or maybe what was one of your bigger struggles with it, coming into academia?
Yeah, I think maybe one of the first struggles was that it was fast paced. There was quite a bit of a pressure, to collect data, analyze them, and you're always comparing yourself. I think, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think more and more you see in departments and among professors that they really value a welcoming environment, an environment where there's no competition, where everyone can learn at their own pace. And I think it took me a while also to realize that. So I think, it's that was one of the challenges. But I think what surprised me also is just the fast pace also, and the fact that no 2 days are the same. There's a lot of things you end up doing in the day. So you're learning a lot, of course, and even as a teacher, I think that's maybe what surprises me the most as a teacher, is that I learn every day. I'm always wondering if this receptor GPCR in this type of cell is a little bit different in this organism also. So I think to be a well-rounded scientist or professor, we really need to keep ourselves updated with the recent research, and I must say I learned a lot from students as well. And I like when they have those simple questions that also bring us back down to earth, and we I was, I guess, a little too stuck into that one thing, and I should just think about the big picture. So I think that's what's surprising. I think in academia and as a teacher is always learning all the time. Yeah.
So is there a moment or experience that shaped how you approach your role as a professor, or how you are as a professor?
Yeah, I think so when I finished my second postdoc at UCLA, so finishing research and transitioning into teaching, I took a 1-year teaching and learning program, a training program. And one of the first things I've learned, and I think has shaped the way I teach, is this concept of alignment between what we do in class, the learning outcomes that we present to students, and also the assessments. It was new to me, but it made complete sense, and it helps me to always have a purpose when I design a lecture, so that students also know the expectation, where they're going, and what they are doing in class, and how that's going to help them, with regard to what they need to achieve in the course, but also all those skills that they need to master, even sometimes the soft skills. So. Yeah. Have you seen those alignments?
Yeah.
Classes
I have.
sometimes?
I would say so that I have seen them. Yeah.
Learning objectives, I do think, are very useful and definitely help shape how much time I spend on certain things. And
Yeah, and I see them more often now than I did before. I feel like that's grown into a lot of lectures and classes now.
Yeah. I think it's important. I try to remind students that they are not exam questions, but they are really the things we can assess them on. And so I think it puts the focus not on the content of the course, but on the skills. Skills that are often applicable.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think they're really, really helpful too when we're learning in class. I think they're really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. It helps us also to be really upfront with what we're doing and honest about all of that.
It makes the expectation clear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's one way. I guess it has defined the way I teach, and I also try to use as much as I can the Bloom's taxonomy. So I guess a hierarchical, a list of skills, whether it's about remembering or analyzing, comparing, evaluating critically, a concept or an idea, or designing an experiment. So. And I think we can there do a better job, and even in first year or second year, really encourage students to think, about designing an experiment. No, you don't have to be a fourth year student to really think about cool tests that you can do. So I think that was also important.
Okay, have you separately studied how students study and their study methods? Have you looked at that separately? Is that a thing professors do?
No, actually, I have not, and I think that's a great idea, because this is kind of a black box. We don't actually know how much what the notes you take, right? There's all these things that you do at home, and it's hard to know. So I would definitely be interested in doing something like this. You think that?
Oh no, I was
Yeah.
just curious about that, so I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, I think it's true that we are often focused too much on how we deliver it as opposed to how students receive the material. So I think it would be great to do some project in science education or honors, maybe on that. What are the tools that students use and how they study? I have actually asked students to make a list and then I would post it on some of my courses. The list of the methods they use, flashcards,
Yeah.
yeah.
Things like that, yeah.
Okay, so now we'll go into segment 4. So this is about applications and future impacts.
So I think the first question that I wanted to ask you, and I think we've already kind of touched on it, but just to get more of like a defined answer, is how do you define your impact on people or on like your students? Do you feel like how do you know that you've done a good job, I guess, or like what makes you feel satisfied with your work specifically? Like what thing, if there is a thing?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. I think a lot of profs need to always ask themselves this question. Sometimes it's something that you know right away. If the lecture is boring, if I'm just reading the slides and not engaging, then I feel it right away deep inside in the students as well. And you can see that in the atmosphere, I think. Of course, we don't hear a lot from students. We do have some evaluations, and so there is some constructive feedback at the end of the semester. So those are great, but often they are based on satisfaction as opposed to actual impact of learning, right? So it's hard to measure the extent to which we have that impact, but it's not rare to have students a few years down the road say, "Hey, I remember I took this class, and this has completely changed how I interact or with biology or with science, and now I found a new passion." And so I think that's very rewarding, and that's. And we sometimes are surprised because it's not the things that we expected to be impactful. That had the most impact. In first year I bring plants, bring fossils now in class, and students love that. So I think it's about the experience, about that interest. In going back to the effect of motivation, I think that's maybe the one thing that has the most impact. So I guess I would say it's the feedback we get few years down the road. Sometimes we have to remember that we are not there to teach to these students as if they were all going to be researchers. And I think instead we need to think of them as human beings and citizens, and they have to think critically, and we have to actually think about all of these skills. So it's not easy to measure that impact, but a few years, when you see the same students in third or fourth year, then you hear a little bit about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of looking at like the flip side of that, a lot of students kind of perceive professors as people that just kind of like deliver the material. So what do you wish more people understood about what professors actually do?
Yeah, I think maybe I wish students remember that their profs were students before, and they struggled. I certainly had really bad grades in organic chemistry, really bad, but it did not prevent me, to go further. And I think maybe remember that professors also are just, passionate about science, about biology, and so they really care. Maybe it doesn't seem like this, but they do care, about their students, their learning. It's not easy, so I think we are always improving, and I think it's good to do some type of reflection on how we teach. But I think yeah, I think students should remind themselves that their profs are just human beings, and we also have a life beside work, and we are very approachable. And I really enjoy when the student associations organize get-togethers and wine and cheese. That way we can kind of like go over this this barrier, and yeah.
Okay, wow, yeah. I would want to ask, so in like the next 10, 20 years, what do you hope your students will remember or carry forward?
Yeah, I think I'd like students maybe to remember one or two concepts that are maybe fascinating. I really like evolution and genetics, so I think it's really about the cool stories, the cool organisms, the exceptions. Because I think we still need to remember we were kids and we were like amazed by some colors or some animals or plants, right? So there's always going to be that one animal that looks weird that is photosynthetic, for example, and that exception that is so cool. So I feel like if students in 10 or 20 years come back to me remembering these one or two things, I think that would be amazing. Or maybe how they can grow as a scientist with a critical mind as well. Yeah.
Huh.
All right, so we're going to move on to our very last segment, which is called Last Sip. So here is your opportunity to like tell us kind of some last pieces of advice, and as well as like some different opportunities that you have.
Well, basically, continuing on, so what is some advice that you would give to students who are considering academic careers or considering careers in teaching?
Yeah, so I think I would encourage them to pursue their dream. Remember how they got to their field. If we're in science, what are the things that were kind of motivating them? What was their first love? Was it maybe like a walk in nature or something really cool that they've read, a book or a cool story? And I think to always remember that it's not going to be easy, in academia, but not everything is based on performance. And I think more and more you will see that employers are also looking for very specific profile, your profile. There's no one way of doing science and of being a prof or researcher, and I think it's it's very important to value your own path. Try different things. It's okay not to know what you want to do in the future. Try things, then you will figure it out. It took me 36 years maybe to find out that I wanted to do more teaching. So, but know that there will be employers and people looking for your profile, and and will want to see beyond the grades, I guess, and the performance. Yeah.
All right, so kind of building off of that, what are some different opportunities that you know of for students to like get involved or connect with like either education in science or just with science in general?
Yeah, so I think there's quite a few opportunities. Often the information is not very easy to find. That's why actually the Science Student Association, the SSA, wanting to put together all of this information. So we are hoping in a few weeks we'll put that together, and I think there's a lot of wine and cheese and get together organized by student associations. So these are great to really interact and talk to professors. But I would say also talk to your TAs. Those are the ones doing the research and being in the lab. Ask them to just go in their lab and ask questions about that weird machine that is on the side. And the more you engage like this, you'll be in better position to really understand their experience. Ask advice. Ask also how they got into research. When you send an email, make sure that you send a transcript and you send a CV, short and concise. And I think be genuine. I think attend also the poster presentation of the honors projects at the end of the year. I think it's early April during the final exam, and this is a great opportunity to actually see the actual research, and you will see professors as well there. There's a few opportunities. I encourage students to look into that early. Start maybe volunteering in a lab. Also, one of the last advice I've started giving was, to tell students, write a short email, and then after you knock at the door of the profs and say, hey, I just sent you an email. And I just wanted to introduce myself so you can put a face on the name. I love what you're doing.
That's a good idea. So they actually know who you are.
Yeah. Something that stands out, right? Because we get a lot of emails, but you don't get an email and a face and a very genuine hello and, without disturbing the prof. And I think it goes a long way. Why not?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then thank you so much for joining us on
Thanks
our
for having me.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for spending time with us today. I'm Anusha.
I'm Amelia.
And I'm Taryn.
And we'll be back next time with more stories, insights, and a fresh cup of tea to spill. Remember, the journey doesn't stop here. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep steeping in inspiration. See you next time.